If you're a pop culture junkie who loves TV, film, music, comedy, and other really important stuff, then you've come to the right place. Get ready and settle in for Classic Conversations, the best pop culture interviews in the world. That's right, we circled the globe so you don't have to. If you're ready to be the king of the water cooler, then you're ready for Classic Conversations with your host, Jeff Dwoskin.
All right, Ellen, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. You get the show going each and every week, and this week was no exception. Welcome, everybody, to episode 317 of Classic Conversations. As always, I am your host, Jeff Dwoskin. Great to have you back for what's sure to be the most magical episode of Classic Conversations of all time. My guest today is superstar magician and social media creator extraordinaire, Justin Flom. We're talking magic. We're talking spray paint art. You have likely seen Justin all over your social feeds. He has billions upon billions upon billions upon billions of views. He is amazing. And we're getting into all that in just a few seconds. And in these few seconds, last week, Chris Carter, host of Breakfast with the Beatles on SiriusXM, was my guest. We talked Fab Four. It was all Beatles all the time. Do not miss that episode. But right now, do not miss the amazing story of Justin Flom, superstar magician, superstar social media creator. So many great stories, and that's coming at you right now.
All right, everyone. I'm excited to introduce my next guest. He's performed on Ellen, The Rachel Ray Show, The Today Show, over 30 billion views. You've likely seen him on the internet. Australia's Timed Out dubbed him as the heartthrob of the first boy band of magicians. We'll have to unpack that in a minute. He's the most viewed magician on the planet. Welcome to the show, Justin Flom.
Happening.
How you doing?
Thank you for having me on and have some fun.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time.
The heartthrob quote is a crazy, no one's ever pulled that quote out before, but it is out there. There was a boy band of magicians for a hot second. I was in it, but it was only in Australia and not successful enough that it's still around. So that should tell you what you need to know about it.
What does that entail? Just some young, good-looking musicians?
Yeah, the working title of the show was Four Magicians in Skinny Jeans. Like this was a decade ago. But Justin Willman, who's the host of Cupcake Wars back in the day, and then another magician who created stuff for David Blaine, and another Australian magician who did Ellen and a whole bunch of stuff. We all joined forces to be like a boy band of magicians. And that was the main thing is if your listeners or viewers have seen me before, they actually probably don't know me as a magician now because I've surpassed magic in the views. Now most people know me as a spray paint artist. It's really weird because I had like a 20-year career as a magician, but when pandemic hit, everything kind of changed and I became a social media influencer or a content creator. I like better than influencer since influencer seems to have a lot of connotations these days. But I just started making very different videos from magic and kind of have found several different niches which have kind of opened up a whole new side to the career. It's really, really weird.
The spray paint, what do you call that?
Yeah, I don't know. So I've got like 10 billion views just in spray paint art. The way I do it is kind of similar to what Banksy does, with stencils and layers and things like that. This is not a new technique in art. Layered stencils has been around forever. But I am the first guy to figure out that creates incredible engagement and watch time in videos because you see the painting come together slowly, but you kind of hang out in the video to see the end because you want to see what it looks like because you're only seeing it piece by piece. So you only see the layer red go down and the layer this. And as it goes together, you're like, oh, I think it's going to be the Jetsons or whatever the thing is that I'm painting. And it just kind of ended up being a really cool, has gone beyond just now the painting to how can I incorporate the spray paint art into something in the real world? So when we did Iron Man on the ceiling, we knocked out a ceiling light and replaced it with Iron Man's chess piece. So we like seeing the painting, the spray paint art, but also, oh, wow, cool. Now the ceiling light for this room is Iron Man's chess piece. It's a fun thing.
That was a great one. These videos always start with, at least the ones I saw, always start with an oops. Oops, I just put a hole in the wall. Or like the Iron Man one starts with, oops, I just broke this light fixture. What am I going to do? Oh, I'll cover it up with a full Iron Man.
Great inspiration from Britney Spears. Oops, I did it again. It's just constantly knocking holes in my wall or destroying lights. We've got several in the works right now. There's a Braveheart sword that makes a hole in the wall and ends up as a crazy Braveheart piece of art. There is, we've shattered a couple more lights for different things coming out of the ceiling. We're always working on new ways. So it's become a cool thing, not just, hey, what's a cool piece of art that I want to do, but how do I incorporate that into some problem-solving thing? Like I'm going to shove a book in a wall, and then it will end up being an invisible bookcase with Beauty and the Beast's Belle holding the books. So instead of just a picture of Belle on my daughter's wall, it ends up as like actual use. And then I think people like that because they see themselves, oh boy, if I had those stencils, I could do something like that, which is good because we're getting ready to sell these stencils so that people can try it at home. Be a fun product.
A little under the covers for me. So let's take the Mickey Mouse one you did. Are you nailing these the first time, or are there some of these where you're like halfway through and you're like, paint the wall white again? We got to start over.
So that happened once. So one time, we got to the end of the thing and I botched it because it is quite sensitive, these layers. Look, a lot of people watch these videos and they're like, this guy's got no skill other than lining up stencils. Totally fair. Hopefully my skill set comes more in the cool thing that I'm doing with the painting. But the first one to go crazy viral, it did like 400 million views, which is bonkers. Like you have to pause and just go, 400 million, how is that even possible? But it really went crazy on YouTube. Was Tom and Jerry, where I knocked a hole in my wall, like a little mouse hole. And instead of fixing the hole, I paint Tom and Jerry where it looks like Tom Cat is going to smash Jerry with a sledgehammer as he's running out of the hole. At the end of this painting, though, the last layer, the most important one that adds all the black outline to make everything pop, I just went too heavy on it and it bled all over the place. And it looked like Jerry was a problem. So that got painted over. And commenters on social media will spot it because they're like, wait a second, Jerry moved 3 inches between the final layer and the finishing shot. So they still caught me. But yeah, usually I can knock these things out first try. And that's the great thing about social media. You shouldn't actually be perfect. People want to see the human in this sort of content. They don't want it to be perfect. So we actually really strive to get it in one shot. And even if it's not perfect, that's it. We roll with it.
It's incredible. And, it's armchair artist. Sure. Oh, that's easy. You're just lining up stuff. Yeah, go ahead and do that. I can't even get a shelf to be straight for myself when I'm putting it up.
Cool education. I've gotten plugged into kind of the graffiti artist community and learned a lot because I'm a magician by trade, but I always loved playing with spray paint and spray paint art and that sort of thing. What's nice is having the brain of a magician. I know about a lot of little weird things. So I did another Mickey Mouse one where he's got a light bulb above his head and it looks like the light bulb turns on like Mickey has an idea. So the opening shot, of course, is knocking out a light bulb cutout hole in the wall and shoving a light bulb in there. But the magician brain in me knows, hey, I can wire a light bulb to do this thing so it turns on, and then I'll incorporate it into a painting. So it's kind of been this perfect marriage of 2 careers to end up with this totally new spot where, there's a crazy amount of views coming in. I did the Hulk. I got 300 million views in 3 days. Just on TikTok or YouTube. I don't remember which one it is, but it was crazy.
They all blur together.
Yeah, it's a really.
Yeah. The Hulk one was awesome with the 3D fist.
Yes, that was an idea I had for a while, and I finally got to do it. And if you want some inside baseball on these things, people ask me, how do I get views on social media? And it sounds like circular logic, but the way you get people to watch your videos is for people to watch your videos. And that sounds, not enough information, but what it is if you only got 100 views on your video, well, unfortunately, that means even those 100 people did not watch that video. Even your own mother didn't watch that video. Because if the 100 people, the first 100 to see it, watch the whole thing, well, then it goes to 1,000. And if those 1,000 watch it, then it goes to 10,000 and so on and so forth. So the opening shots end up being the most important thing, even more important than the finished product, which is why if I mess up something or if the art doesn't come out perfect, I don't care. What I do care about is the opening shot. So for Hulk, I knew, all right, we're going to knock a hole in the wall. The first way we did it is I got on top of a ladder and I had an air conditioning vent smack me in the face, knocked me off the ladder, and the ladder went crashing through the wall, created a hole in the wall. Okay, good. I loved it. I thought it was a great pratfall. I loved Dick Van Dyke and doing any physical comedy like that. So I thought, this is great. So we put that, edited it, put it up, and it stalled out. It didn't do anything. So I had another opening shot of that as a backup, which was me going to hit a hammer in this wall, and I go back and I hit it, and I hit a hole behind me. Still comedically funny, good little bit of timing. We worked on what that would look like. People watch these things and they realize, obviously, these aren't accidental mistakes. The camera was rolling. Totally fine. That's what entertainment is.
Right.
I'm surprised when people call it fake. It's like nobody watches The Office or Friends and says fake. No, of course, we're writing this stuff and we're wanting to entertain you, the viewer. So that's what's up. But when we switched opening shots to this other one, the difference is only 3 seconds in this whole video, just different opening shot. And one version did 3 million views. The other version did 300 million views. You just got to be able to look at those metrics. And I'm far more of a data analyst than I am an entertainer, because I just want to give the audience exactly what they want. And that all is through just looking at the data of what are people watching.
I think that's where a lot of people struggle, is that hook, that first hook. I've done stuff and go, oh, Jeff, that would have killed it. There's an extra quarter of a half a millisecond there. You lost your entire audience. I'm like, what?
We started to, I work with a great team here in Las Vegas, and there's a guy named Rick Lax, and he heads up a whole bunch of creators out here, and I get to work with those creators, and Ricky is my best friend. We created the TV show Wizard Wars together. So he had the idea for the TV show, and I filmed the first pilot of it for YouTube, and then it ended up selling and doing a couple seasons on Sci-Fi. That was a TV show where magicians get ordinary objects and have to create magic in a game show format, kind of like Chopped or Iron Chef, where chefs, get, here's your ingredients, make a meal.
That's exactly what I wrote down. Iron Chef for magicians.
That's right. It was a blast. Penn and Teller were celebrity judges before they went off and did their own. They did Fool Us on CW following that show. But when they were celebrity judges on our show, it was an absolute blast. We got to create cool new magic. But following the failure and cancellation of that show, it wasn't a failure. It was actually wildly successful. It was a new president of the company that took Sci-Fi from reality to scripted, just a whole revamp of the whole network. Because our ratings were higher than what Penn and Teller are getting today on CW. I'm not bitter. It's all good. After we stopped that TV show, Ricky started doing stuff on the internet and Facebook in particular, and really found a niche with interactive magic online because people wanted to interact with stuff. And I was doing my own thing on the internet, but now working with an incredible community of creators here in Las Vegas, we get to kind of study what's working, what's not working. And yeah, a lot of times we found there's like these buzzwords that'll just send people away. And whatever you can do to avoid something that would make somebody swipe, that is everything. That's the success or the failure of a video, is these little things that send people away.
The minutia of it, it's hard. It's hard to know, because in my head, the things I do are all brilliant. Why aren't you watching?
It's really difficult as an artist on the social media thing. And I think it's why a lot of artists and traditional media, Hollywood types, have a hard time with social media, because it was the biggest thing for me to unlearn. As an artist, I have things that I want to share. Right before pandemic, I created something called Magic Mixtape. It was this 20-minute short film. I orchestrated music for it and hip hop beats and created original magic, and had some of my friends submit incredible visual magic. And this thing was seen by nobody. It's the most artistic venture I had ever done, and nobody watched it. And if you really love magic, you might make it all the way through it. And some of my heroes, my favorite magicians, were very kind in how they said it was the best piece of magic released that year, is 2019. But nobody watched it. And that kind of gave me a picture into how it must be when a comedian or an actor gets on social media and goes, why is no one watching my stuff? And it's because what we think the audience wants is not always the thing. You actually have to go into the numbers, and that's when you start to learn, wow, we've got some backwards views in entertainment, and we thought that this is what the audience wants. And that even might be what they say that they want, but they're lying. They go, we want Aaron Sorkin dramas in the West Wing. And actually they want, Naked and Afraid or the Kardashians. People don't want to be honest, but their news feed won't lie. Whatever they have on their TikTok feed, that's what they're actually watching. People don't necessarily want to admit the content that they like.
Oh, I know. The best thing about TikTok and its algorithm is people who don't understand the TikTok algorithm. I remember being somewhere once and they're like, TikTok's ridiculous. All it is naked girls, in bikinis. I'm like, is it?
Yeah, that's weird because my TikTok is nothing but stand-up comedy clips and podcast clips. That's weird. Your TikTok's broken.
You just outed yourself, buddy. This is what you're watching.
Exactly right.
The Magic Block Party, isn't that? Didn't I read that's what got you on the Ellen DeGeneres show? Isn't that when she spotted you doing that?
The Ellen show was great. So Ellen, I had a blast. I did it a couple different times. One of the episodes I did for Ellen ended up being, I don't know if she won an Emmy for it or if it was just the highest rated Ellen show that she had ever had. It was really cool. I don't get credit for that. It was not me. It was because Steve Carell dressed as Gru on the particular episode that I was on. When I came back and did the show, I had already done the show at that point. Steve Carell dressed fully as Gru. It was hilarious and awesome. So I got to be backstage with this, he did the whole prosthetic thing. But the way I got on the Ellen show was an interesting story. So again, my buddy Ricky, we were talking and I was like obsessed with branding and I wanted like a cool logo. And I was like, this is the color scheme for my life, man. Like, look, this is what's going to make me successful. I'm going to get discovered because I have this great logo and color scheme. And he was like, I don't know, that seems wrong. I think it's just do good tricks. So he challenged me. He's like, just take a year and just do good stuff and put it all on the internet. And I was like, all right, I was working on cruise ships at the time. So that meant if you're on a cruise ship, you've got one day that you're doing a show and 7 or 6 days where you're doing nothing. You're on a boat in exotic locations. So I started filming a bunch of stuff and putting it on the internet. And at the end of that year, yes, Ellen DeGeneres called because of 2 videos that she had seen. First one was this tribute to war veterans using a deck of cards. And that was this cool story thing. And that trick actually ended up in 3 different magic acts on America's Got Talent and Britain's Got Talent, with each magician performing their version of that trick or my version of that trick and winning. So this trick was great and it went viral on Facebook to 100 million people. And Ellen saw that, which led her to my Magic Block Party. And the Magic Block Party was it was a real thing that I would do. In my hometown in Minnesota, I would throw a big party and just do a whole bunch of magic for everyone there. And we filmed it. It was kind of my answer to David Blaine Street Magic. David Blaine would film for 3 years to get just all these cool performances. And he would just film whenever he was walking around New York. And I thought, well, I don't have 3 years and I don't want to walk around a street and talk to strangers. Let me see if I can knock it out in a day. I'll get 500 people to my house. Everyone will be prepped to see magic because they know that's why they're there. So they're the best audience because they want to see it. And then we'll get groups and we'll film it. And it was great. At the time, that was wildly successful for me at just 3 million views. That was because of one really cool trick called water to Coke, where I took someone's water bottle and made it turn into Coca-Cola. And that was a really hard trick to do, but it really worked. So Ellen finds Soldier's Deck of Cards, which is like a touching piece. And then she finds Magic Block Party. So she has her producer call me and she goes, Ellen thinks that this is a camera trick. Is it a camera trick? And I said, no. And she goes, great, come and do it on our show. And the trick specifically that she wanted was me ripping a lifesaver out of my neck. I eat a lifesaver and it pops through my flesh. It's crazy looking. That was a blast. So I was so nervous. It was my very first television appearance ever. I had David Copperfield calling me on the phone, trying to get me to edit my set because he had heard word about what magic I was going to do. And he didn't like a particular trick that I was going to do. So I was stressed about that because my hero that I grew up watching didn't like a magic trick I was going to do. That was crazy. But I ended up doing it and ended up going crazy good. And that kind of was the shifting point for my magic career because Ellen DeGeneres at that point, she hadn't had a lot of magicians on at that point. Now she's had everybody. She really loved magic after that. but it was a shift. From there, I was able to get discovered by Florida Georgia Line, and I opened up their tour doing Madison Square Garden and, all of these arenas across the United States doing magic tricks in a rock and roll show, in a country music show with Florida Georgia Line and Thomas Rhett, Frankie Ballard. It was crazy. So I would host that show in between each of the music acts and do magic in the arena, which had never been done before. And that was cool. But all of that came because of Ellen. So she was very kind to jumpstart my career in that way.
Okay, I have a few questions. One, David Copperfield. Did you know him prior to this phone call?
We had a couple interactions. We'd had a dinner together, and it's cool. I remember a quote from Jerry Seinfeld. He said, "It's amazing that life is long enough that you can meet your heroes." Now, he was speaking about Bill Cosby when he said that. I think he'd change that now. But same thing for me. At the time, David Copperfield was my hero. Look, he is king of the 80s and 90s, where he did more for magic than anybody ever. No other magician has ever appeared on Esquire magazine. He did amazing stuff. And I think his old specials, because he did, 20 or so amazing magic specials over the course of 20 years. That was who I grew up idolizing and wanting to be. But yes, in a few different he's very protective over his material, very litigious, as totally he can be, because he really wants to protect not just his legacy, but also magic. He has a very strict view of what magic is and what it can be. So he called me and said, "Hey, I don't like this thing." And I said, look, man, this is a published trick. It's in a book. Here's how magic works. I'm not sure if this stat is correct, but I've heard it a lot from different higher ups in magic, which is next to law and medicine, the most published works in any industry is magic. Like, there's a magic book published like every day, and it has been that way for 500 years. So magic is the oldest art form in terms of technique, because we got people back in biblical times using magic. But magic as an entertainment art form is only 500 years old, because it wasn't until 500 years ago that magicians started being like, honest. Yeah, we're not a wizard, but we're doing this for entertainment. Previous to that, magic was only ever used to claim power from God. So for the last 500 years, magic has been released to the community, and you can apprentice to learn secrets or buy these secret books to learn secrets. Well, I bought this book by an amazing magician named Jim Steinmeier. He created all the magic for like the Broadway play Beauty and the Beast, things like that. Incredible piece of magic that was where it allowed the viewer at home watching Ellen to take part in the magic, and the magic would happen in their hands. It's a wicked piece of magic. And I ended up doing a similar piece on James Corden years later. But David kind of thought that he owned interactive magic. He's like, no. I'm the guy who started doing magic through your television set, which is debatable. And he certainly did it for the most people at that time. I did the effect anyway. So David and I love him. He does not like me.
Sorry to interrupt. I have to take a quick break. You can reflect on your own personal relationship with David Copperfield. I do want to thank everyone for their support of the sponsors. When you support the sponsors, you're supporting us here at Classic Conversations, and that's how we keep the lights on. And now back to my conversation with Justin Flom.
No one paused, but at the end, and I'll remind everyone, I'll put notes in the show notes, but you got to check out this Ellen clip. Justin takes these mints, and then he swallows it and then does this thing where he pulls it out of his neck, like he just said, which was insane. Okay. And then the water to pop thing, water to Coke. I don't know why I said, yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you're coming from the Midwest.
Yeah,
water to pop.
Water to Coke was insane. I mean, it's just like, it's amazing to watch magic tricks. It always, I never even try to figure out. I have a friend who's like, I can figure out anything. I'm like, I don't want to figure it out. I just want to enjoy it.
I'm okay with either. Like, I'm the guy who I need to know the secret. I don't like not knowing. So I understand when someone is like, I'm going to watch your trick and then I'm going to YouTube or Reddit to see how it's done. And guess what? YouTube and Reddit, they always have the answer. They always know exactly how the trick is done. So the secrets are out there. We're in a very different age. It's not 500 years ago where you had to like know a guy who knew a guy who had a book. Now you can say, how did Justin do that thing on this? And the secret will pop up. And I'm okay with that. I'm much more of an open source guy. And which brings me to the magic community really doesn't like me right now because I've started revealing magic secrets on the internet for videos. So not only did the magic community believe I was a sellout before because I started doing social media stuff instead of the artistic venture of doing magic at the Academy of Magical Arts in Hollywood, California, the Magic Castle. You know, they're like, this guy's just doing internet stuff. But I made them even more mad because I started revealing magic secrets. And luckily, I've been able to have some good conversations with friends in the magic world and say, look, man, I'm not doing this maliciously. I don't want to take down the magic community. I actually see a lot of evidence that the viewers like learning about magic, and it doesn't hurt the art form. I think it helps the art form because if everyone in the world had the same amount of magic knowledge as my dad, who's an amateur magician and knows a fair amount about magic, I think the world would be a kinder place to magicians because my dad experiences wonder and astonishment more than perhaps you, because he searches out magic more than anyone because he knows about it. He likes it. So yes, he knows how a lot of tricks are done, but oftentimes magicians get really great joy out of fooling other magicians. Penn and Teller oftentimes will use a secret of magic. They'll reveal a secret, and then they'll use that exact secret against the audience to fool them deeper on the next trick or a trick a couple later. And that's something that's really fun to experiment with, but magicians they hate that I've revealed the fake thumb trick or the mirror box trick and things like that. I feel bad. I did not do it to piss off magicians, but boy, are they pissed.
Does this mean you're not invited to like the magician office parties then?
I have been kicked out of more than one magic organization, which is funny. Penn and Teller, their whole thing back in the 80s was we were kicked out of the Magic Castle, which was a line, like a great press release, but I don't think it was true. But I've actually now been kicked out of magic organizations. And my main childhood magic organization that I grew up in, they had a meeting to see if they could kick me out. And they ended up not kicking me out because I went before them and kind of pleaded my case. And I made a good case of it, which was, look, guys, you already expose magic secrets in a lot of different ways. There's magic secrets that you see acceptable to expose and unacceptable, and it's just kind of a debate. But please understand my heart. I'm just trying to create interesting entertainment and that sort of thing. So it's a different thing. But yeah, they don't love all of the magic exposure that I'm doing.
Since you've done magic for so long, I mean, is this why you moved to spray painting? But I mean, you know what I mean? Like why you kind of pivoted? Is that why you reinvented yourself a bit, or?
The pivot came, so pandemic hits, and I, as a live performing magician, I see my calendar completely empty. I had all these gigs lined up and they all went away. So me and my buddy, we sat down and we thought, well, you know, we could, for the first time in our life, really take off a month and do nothing. Thought it was going to be a month. Or we can use this opportunity where there's no risk because we're not taking off of work. We don't have work. And we could just really work hard every day to create this online content and see what happens. And that's what we went with. So I created a new video every day all the way through August. So that was lockdown to August, March to August. And first month there was $40,000. I was like, whoa, that's something. Holy buckets. Next month was $80,000. And I was like, man, what is happening? The month after that was $150,000 from these views. And I was like, all right, I don't know what's going on, but I'm definitely going to pour into this thing. And it did increase every month until the end of the year. And by the end of the year, I was like, okay, at first, I really thought this was kind of a side gig and it has nothing to do with my career because I'm doing silly videos of puzzle. Everything at the beginning was magic adjacent. So it was how to get out of handcuffs, or here's an interesting optical illusion or a puzzle, things like that kind of felt similar to magic tricks. And then pranks became a part of magic because you can use deception in pranks. So making it look like I was sawed in half while sitting on a couch. That was something I had taken from my magic block party, which was just an art installation that anybody could get in and make themselves look like they were sawed in half. We called it the Beetlejuice couch because it looked like the couch at the end of Beetlejuice where the woman is sawed in half. But that thing ended up going to 100 million people in a day. And it was like, there's something here. The opening shots of that video were the method to a magic trick. All right. Seems like people really want to see the method to a magic trick. So what I end up doing, do you remember The Masked Magician back in the day on Fox?
Yeah, I was going to bring it.
magic?
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. That was like all the controversy. Guy wore the mask,
Right.
and yeah, was that you?
No, it was not me. It was a guy named Val Valentino. He lived out here in Vegas. So I'm in Vegas. And it was a huge thing because we all knew where he lived. So famous magicians just went to his house and were like, hey, man, what the hell? And it was a whole thing. But I saw data from that, which was, hey, he did this thing. Millions of people are still watching those old episodes. And yet all those magic tricks are still being used professionally and working great. So he didn't take anything out of the magic world repertoire. But also the way that the masked magician would do it is he would perform the trick and then he would teach the trick. Me, I decided I'm going to do the masked magician backwards. Wouldn't it be cool if I start with the weird, interesting method and then show the trick? Because you'd imagine, here's what would happen like. Okay, so this is a story I told New York Times because they did a big piece on the 100th anniversary of sawing a lady in half. And my video sawing a baby in half had like 200 million views. And I sawed my 4-month-old baby in half. It was a crazy thing. The New York Times interviewer, he goes, I hate to bring up Copperfield again, but he goes, we're interviewing Copperfield and all these other magicians, and they won't tell us the secret to the sawing a lady in half trick. And I said, what do you want to know? I was happy to. So he told me what he thought the methods were. And I was like, yes, no, here's this. But magicians all think that I won't reveal my own method. Happy to. The sawing a baby in half thing. You want to know how it worked?
I know how you did it.
Yeah.
You had triplets and only did the trick twice.
There you go. You go. Yeah. I show a video of it when I do live shows still of me sawing my baby in half. And people are like, how'd you do it? And I say, oh, she has a half sister. Very stupid. But so I actually told the New York Times everything. And he was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. We're going to put the method in the article. Someone called, maybe a big magician who shall not be named, who is litigious. All those methods were taken out of the article, which is fine. I like educating people on how magic works because I think that's part of it. But the example I gave to the New York Times writer, I said, imagine you're at a party and some guy walks up to you with a bird and puts the bird in his sleeve and is like, come here. You're like, oh, we're about to mess someone up with a bird. This is going to be crazy. What you've seen now is the method. Okay. And you see that method. And then you follow that guy through the party until he reaches some girl and boom, makes a bird appear for the girl. So we get two things there. We get to learn the cool method that the audience probably would have arrived at anyway. Like you watch it and you go, yeah, bird's probably in the jacket. And you get to see the reaction of somebody who gets the fun, cool visual of a bird appearing. It seems like a best of both worlds thing. So after the sawing in half couch, Beetlejuice couch thing, and after kind of everything I'd been through, I was like, yeah, I think it's time that we reveal some secrets to magic. And it's proven to be very successful. But the shift to painting was totally separate from all of that. It wasn't because of the magic community or anything. It's because I get to do whatever I want every day. With the way that I work on social media, I'm trying to cast as big of net as possible. So I'm not trying to fit into a niche and only do one particular kind of content, which means today I'm building a foam pit in my house with a trap door. Speaking of Ellen, her trapdoor game show stuff. Mm-hmm. I love that. So I'm building one in my house because I want to send people through a trapdoor into a foam pit. So I'm building that, but also, I'll do a new buzzsaw magic trick that I got from a friend. We'll chop someone's hand off with a buzzsaw. And the day after, I'll go back to painting. It's a cool way to do it.
It sounds like to me like if you ever want to move, you're going to have a real difficult time moving or a real easy time moving.
It's so funny you say that. I was saying today because there's a whole thing with trying to get me to move someplace. And I'm like, I can't. Like, I actually can't afford to move. I've got this house is spray painted every which way. And I've got a dozen projects being put in. And then I've got a warehouse here in Vegas full of just props and weird magic things and mirrors and stuff. It's a problem. I'm not a pack rat. I'm not a hoarder, but I'm close.
The one big takeaway so far for me is if anything ever happens to you, I'm going to call the authorities and tell them it was David Copperfield.
Yes, that okay. Yeah. Look, again, I like David a lot. His show still, when people ask, "Hey, what magic show should I go see?" I go see David Copperfield. It's amazing. He's got a crazy thing with an alien in the show right now. Look, nobody's cooler or better than David was when he was coming up. Look, he dated Claudia Schiffer. Holy, come on. It's amazing. Also, look, I like when young magicians come up. And I think that as a magic community, this is not about David. This is about in general. We don't really do enough to bolster and raise up the young magicians. There's a lot of gatekeepers in magic who kind of set up these rules, and they're fake rules. They're not real rules about how you should perform and things that you can't do. And the truth is all the big guys, they don't follow any of those rules. So you've got a whole bunch of young people trying to come, and it's show business in general. You know, you hear from the big guys, this is the way you write, this is the way you perform, don't do this, don't do this. But the big guys are all doing all those things. So in magic in particular, it's camera tricks, it's actors, and it's exposing magic secrets. The big guys have done all of it. They've all used actors and stooges, plants, whatever you want to call them. They've all used camera tricks, but then they tell basically the magic community believes the press and says, wow, well, just Chris Angel doesn't use actors or camera tricks or anything. Well, come on, man. Of course he does. I'm not saying it's bad because I do it too. It's a different era. We're all doing entertainment. Zach King is kind of a magician, right? But he only does camera tricks. At the end of the day, just what's the most entertaining? What's the best thing that you can do for somebody?
I did stand-up comedy. Well, I guess I still do, but like for 20 years. And then one of my inspirations in stand-up comedy was the amazing Jonathan.
Great. I have 2 of his cars now that he passed away. I bought 2 cars from Jonathan. I got close with him towards the end, and brilliant comedian. I loved all of it. Did you have a favorite Jonathan bit?
What reminded me of when you pulled the thing out of your neck, it kind of reminded me because he would do that kind of stuff.
He would do gory stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He was great at just, he would swallow razor blades and all this and just bleed everywhere down his mouth, as opposed to a regular magician who would swallow needles or a razor blade and just pull them out magically. He would make it bloody and gory and great. Yeah, I got to hang out with him a bunch here in Vegas. So I bought his Porsche and I bought his Studebaker. I have 1951 Studebaker Commander. It's that bullet nose, old school. It's great. So I have that one, and I gave the Porsche to my dad and he put it in Florida. But he had so many cars and all this stuff, and he was dying. He had heart trouble and he was dying. It was a very sad thing. So he sold all of this stuff to a bunch of people here in Las Vegas because he had months left to live. And then he lived for another 6 years. And we're like, was this a bit? Like, it seems like an Andy Kaufman style bit that Jonathan would totally do. And he wasn't dying at all. But no, he was definitely dying. He just held on there for a long time. And I wish I could have had more time with him. Great, great stuff. And the other comedian I really liked, and I'd imagine if you like Jonathan, you would like Steve Martin's old stand-up comedy.
I learned to juggle because of Steve Martin.
Great. Everybody should learn how to juggle. So what was the genesis there? You saw him do something and you were like, I gotta be doing that.
Yeah, he did the little trick where he's just kind of moving up he's moving his thing.
Yes.
And yeah, I bought that for dummies.
His book, Born Standing Up, Steve Martin's book on stand-up comedy, is the best. Not only is it the best stand-up comedy book I think there is, I think it's the best book on show business. He did such great, and he started as a magician, but he realized pretty quickly, I think kind of what I took a lot longer to realize, which is magic does not have the amount of power that I wish it did. It just doesn't take up enough brain space in people's head. They dismiss it because they have to. Either the options when you watch magic thing is either the person is a supernatural being or they're lying to you and trying to trick you. And most people don't like liars and tricksters. There's exceptions to that rule, of course, but for the most part, they have to dismiss it and go, all right, well, he used a thing or whatever, and they move on, which is why when Steve Martin left magic and went straight comedy, he had a great basis in thinking different. And then that really showed a totally different way of doing stand-up, and kind of the same way that I get to take a totally different view of video production and stuff on the internet.
It's actually quite fascinating the way you just framed that. the visceral reaction that you get from magic versus laughing, because laughing makes you laugh. It touches a different thing that you're right, that like a year later, or years later, you might repeat.
Yes. Look, I think that's a great point. Like, I think once a week about a David Letterman joke where he talks about, the toothpaste that collects in the side of your sink. I let it dry and then I serve it as after dinner mints. I think it's a funny joke, but I think of it once a week because good comedy kind of gets in your craw and you think about it a lot. And I had never really had that with a magic trick. Look, I've done some incredible pieces of magic. I did magic for 50 Cent once where I worked extraordinarily hard on this trick that may or may not happen, because that's the best kind of magic where there's this master magician named Juan Tamariz, and he talks about the skillful magician will hide a playing card in every salt shaker in a restaurant in order to do a crazy magic thing. But if the opportunity does not present itself, he walks away. And that's kind of this mentality of you go the extra mile for method. And Arrested Development did really good making fun of that. They're like, have you been walking around with lighter fluid in your sleeve for 2 days to do that? Yes. That's how dumb magicians are for that little moment. So the 50 Cent thing. So I'm doing a party for the marketing director of Smart Water. So he's throwing a big party in the Hollywood Hills, and I'm there just to do magic and walk around and share cool stuff for people. So this was immediately after the Ellen DeGeneres appearance, and he saw that and all this. Now, I think ahead of time, I go, all right, who's going to be at this party that would be really cool to do a specific magic trick for? So I look at who Smart Water is, has as their, not sponsor. What's the celebrity endorsed people?
Endorsement.
So it's Jennifer Aniston, Kim Kardashian, and 50 Cent. I can call him 50 because now we've hung out. So 50 is that, but none of these people are supposed to be at the party. I think, well, he's the marketing director. These are the celebrities. Maybe they'll show up. So I prepare a way to, how should I tell the trick? I have a secret thing so that later, if I were to borrow a dollar bill from one of those celebrities, I could change that dollar bill so that treasurer's signature actually on the minted dollar bill would say the name of that celebrity. It's a cool thing. Takes a lot of prep. You got to know about it. Magic's not real. There's a trick to it. So I'm at the party and 50 Cent walks in and I'm like, yes. So I go up and he's got his whole crew around him. So I know I've got like 5 seconds to do something impressive and then I can hang out with 50. So I literally shove my way through the group and I've got a stack of $1 bills and I hand the guys all a bunch of money, and that's interesting already. So as it happens, I'm the only white guy at this party. It was kind of a Bollywood event sort of thing. So already I'm in a unique situation. I broke into this crew from 50 Cent. I hand out money. I collect the money and I shake it and it turns into a bunch of $100 bills and I give out the $100 bills. Wow, that's cool. At that point though, 50 grabs me and he grabs my wrist and he like jerks me close to him and he goes, yo, do it with some of my bills. He bought the trap. Oh, yes. Like I couldn't have asked for a better setup. And I said, yes, give me some of your money. And he pulls out of his pocket. Look, I don't know what club he had just come from, but he has a wad, it had to be $1,000 in ones. It was crazy. I don't know what $1,000 in ones look like. It was a giant wad as big as my head of $1 bills. I go, just give me any one of those. And he gives me one of those dollar bills. I do the magic thing necessary, secret method in order to make what happens happen. But I go, look at the signature on that dollar bill, the treasurer's signature. So on every dollar bill, there's a unique serial number and a signature from the treasurer of the year that bill is minted. And he sees it and it's, just whatever the guy's name is, Bob Johnson. I go, rub it with your finger. And he rubs it and nothing happens. And I go, okay, look at it closely, rub it one more time. And he rubs it and it changes into the name Curtis Jackson, his real name, 50 Cent's real name. And his crew exploded. Like they lost their minds and they're jumping around, dancing around. And 50 did nothing. He just froze. He couldn't compute what just happened, which is the correct response for magic when it really hits hard, is you actually don't go, oh, yay, and give it a round of applause. Your brain does malfunction a little bit. And you're like, I didn't tell anyone I was going to be at this party. And he looks at me, he goes, who are you? And that's a great response to magic. It's one of my favorites.
That is amazing. And it makes the payoff so much better, right? Yeah, I feel you.
Sorry to interrupt. I have to take a quick break. I'm going to check all my $1 bills. And we're back.
To an earlier point where you were talking about how people enjoy knowing the trick.
Mm-hmm.
In comedy, I enjoy seeing my friends or the same people do it again and nailing the same joke again and knowing that.
Or more, it would be hearing the genesis of the joke, which is why Jerry Seinfeld's Comedian did so well. If you're a comedian, you love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
You love seeing him try to write the colonoscopy bit. And you like see him thinking about it. And then eventually you see him arrive at the line, I think the press has invaded my life enough, so I will say no to the paparazzi. And you're like, he got there. What a great bit. And seeing that kind of come together is the same way that I like showing the behind the scenes of magic, is you get to see kind of the thinking behind whatever that thing is.
I wanted to ask you what you did for the Detroit Tigers. I saw that was listed somewhere.
Yes.
I got my Tigers hat on, so let's do it.
Yeah. Remind me the name of the family that owns Tigers. It's
Illich.
Yeah. So the Illich family was very, very kind to me. Like I came out and I did a show at one of the Illich family members goes to this big giant church there in Michigan. And I had done a full evening show there, big 2-hour show with an intermission, and it's a blast. But while I was there, they were like, hey, let's go look at the hockey arena and do a tour. Let's go to a Tigers game and whatever else. And let's just hang out. So they're taking me to all the cool spots. We got to see like Kid Rock's bar and stuff like that, but we're underneath the arena for the Red Wings. Then we go to the Tigers stadium for the baseball game, and we're hanging out in the box. It's great. And I said, hey, should, if you guys want to see any magic or anything, like I can always do stuff. So if you've got anybody you want me to do magic for, and they said, you should do magic for everybody. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, let's go downstairs. We'll do magic for everybody. So we go downstairs. We also did magic for the players before the game. That did not go as well. Look, I'm very honest. They got their game face on. They are absolutely, they're not thinking about tricks and whatever else. So I did something for, I can't remember which player. And he was like, oh, that's cool. And then he went back to batting. Of course he did. But during the game, we got to go down and grab a camera. And they were like, what do you want to do? And I was like, let's just make it up as we go. Or at least it's the appearance of that. Okay, that's the secret. To everyone else, it's going to look like we're making it up as we go. I am prepared out the wazoo. Okay, that's the thing. We get down there, pop on the camera, and I go, yeah, we can do some magic. Hey, and I had a guy who had just finished a beer and crushed the can, and I grabbed it from him, and the can refilled. Dents pop out of the can, so now it's just an empty can, and then I seal the can, but it's this lightweight empty can, and then the can fills up with beer, and I pour it out, and the crowd goes crazy because it's like a cool trick. And it appears totally, as magicians say, impromptu. The reality of which is I was prepared because I knew the Illich family may ask me to do magic in that moment, and you have to be ready for that, which is the same in stand-up. In stand-up, I think there's a fair amount of people who believe these guys are just talking funny and telling stories, making it up as on the spot. And you're like, oh my gosh, no, I've been writing this bit for 3 years trying to get it right.
Well, to circle back to something we talked about earlier, what you just described, making the can out of nowhere, refill, that's something people would talk about forever because they didn't come to a show. They didn't watch you walk on stage and then do that. So there was no setup. They literally thought you just went there, turned around, grabbed some guy's can.
Yes, that is true if you're in person with that person. Okay. Because I have experienced that. I did some magic around a campfire for some Hollywood producers, and they still talk to me about, I did it with a Coca-Cola. We were at the campfire. I don't have anything on me. We're at a campfire. And they hand me this thing and I do that trick. They still talk about it. However, as soon as you put this digital screen in between us or a television screen in between us, now there's too many variables in question that make it less like, well, they don't know if there's a camera trick. They don't know, is that an actor? Is that a phony can? Is that digitally altered beer? All of those things are barriers to wonder or astonishment, which is why, look, if your goal in magic is wonder or astonishment, which a lot of people in magic think it is, in the same way that if your goal in comedy is laughter, well, that's what's paramount. And yes, in stand-up comedy, the goal is just get them to laugh in whatever way possible, unless you're an elitist in comedy and you're like, but don't use props. But don't use this. Don't use impressions. And it's like, okay, well, same thing in magic. They go, wonder or astonishment is the only thing that we're trying to go for. And in my opinion, that's not the only thing that you can go for. You can go for education, or can go for a gag or comedy. And Amazing Jonathan would only do one magic trick in his whole show. The rest of the show was comedy. The rest of the show was gags and bits, and magic tricks didn't work. And he's an incredible and a great magician. So what are we talking about here? When it comes to, yes, a memorable magic trick like that soda can thing, yes, it will be remembered forever, but only if you were standing right there. And because I want to do magic for the most people possible, I've got to do it through the screen.
I don't know. I just heard someone talking about it yesterday, so I don't think you're right. I
appreciate
like that Justin guy. Oh, so I watched the video you did with your daughter when she was younger, and you took her tooth out with your motorcycle.
Yes, I pulled my daughter's tooth out using a motorcycle.
I wish my kids, I used to do some really fun stuff with my kids when they were really young, and my youngest was really willing to do all that stuff. I feel like if my timing was different, I would have had a better shot at social fame. But so I grew up always pulling my teeth out. Well, when they were loose, right? And so your video, so you'd tie a string to your daughter's tooth and then drive away on the motorcycle, and it pulls the tooth, which was basically, it was hanging by a thread.
Oh, yes.
It was very out.
In fact, it was almost out, but it was a fun thing.
I'm just saying, so you don't get letters. My daughter had that too, where it was hanging by a thread of a thread for a week, and she would never let me pull it out.
We had a whole bunch of ideas on how to do it, but the motorcycle pulling it seemed the most fun. We almost attached it to a horse. We were horse riding earlier that day because my daughters are trying to learn how to ride horses, and I was like, we could tie it to the horse's tail or something like that. But the main thing is, with having kids and doing the job that I do, which is social media, I can't force them to be on camera or do anything. I don't want to. But a lot of times they have a fun idea and they go, I want to do that. So we were watching a video of a whole bunch of kids pulling their tooth out on like Funniest Home Videos sort of thing. And my daughter, who has my competitive nature, is like, we can do better than all of those people. And I was like, all right, let's get it. It's the same way she learned how to ride a bike. She's 6, so she's a little bit behind from when I learned or when other kids learned. And that's what got her, the competitive nature. She saw the neighbor kid riding bike, and he's only 4. And it was almost this mentality from her, like, fuck that guy. I gotta get on my bike. And I was like, let's go. Let's do it. First try. Then she nailed it. So when the kids want to hop on camera and do things, if they want to help me with a painting or something, I'm like, I'll hop in here. Absolutely. If they don't want to do it, I go, that's fine. Because what I learned from sawing a baby in half, I was like, look, it's pretty fun to saw a little girl baby in half. However, you cannot saw a crying baby in half. That would be traumatic for everyone to see. Oh my gosh. So for sawing a baby in half, we actually shot it over the course of 2 or 3 days, where the first day was just hanging out with the baby, who's hiding. Half the baby's body is hiding in a table. That's how the trick works. There's a mirror underneath and you can't see anything. And grandma, my mom, is actually hidden underneath this table holding my daughter Haven. So only her upper body is hanging out above the table on camera. We just hung out with her in it and played with her. And she got so comfortable in this thing, she just conked out and went to sleep. And that's when we would do the magic trick, when she was totally asleep. And the take that we ended up using, because we did it, a dozen times, time that it really was amazing, is she woke up halfway through cutting her in half and was just like, it was great. It was really, really fun. The rule is, when you got kids, you can't force them to be on camera. That would be terrible. But when they love it and want to have fun with the stuff, and these projects are all really fun. Yeah. What do you want to do? Let's do it.
The tooth pulling reminded me of not my finest moment. It was one of those things on paper. So my daughter's tooth is, I'm coaching her through. I said, here's what you do, hon. Just grab the tooth. Keep in mind, it's been hanging by a thread for a week at this point. It's great. I go, grab the tooth, hon. She grabs it. I go, okay. I go, ready? 1, 2. And I smacked her hand.
Oh, did it come out?
Came right out.
Was she okay with it? Great.
It didn't hurt, nothing. It was just the act it was the shock of it that I think, and it still comes up.
We were set up the day before to pull the tooth out. And I was tempted because she was just really scared. And I said, you don't have to be scared. Like, that tooth is going to come out. I promise it doesn't hurt. She had never done it before. She didn't know that it didn't hurt. And I was like, it's not going to hurt. I promise. And she's like terrified. And I was tempted to just go without her permission, like to drive away with the motorcycle and, hey, like it or not, that tooth's coming out. But as a dad, I can't do that. I was like, no. And you'll see in the video, she yells at me. She's like, go, do it. Which was finally her, like, just going, because we have a saying here, which is 5 seconds of bravery, no telling what you can do. And really, that's what it is you just need 5 seconds being brave and you're in. That's what it is with cliff jumping, getting on stage. You're nervous before you walk out on stage, but as soon as you're up there, all right, here we are. Let's do it.
Here we are. Let's do it. This was fun. I appreciate you hanging out with me. Do you want to mention your books? You have it real quick?
I've got Adventures of a Kid Magician and Everyday Magic, which is just cool magic books that are out there that teach kids how to do. Well, the cool thing is about Adventures of a Kid Magician is that was a book I pitched to Walmart. And I was like, look, I think this will get kids to read because we can hide the secrets of magic tricks in the book. And so you can't just skip to the end of a chapter and learn the magic trick from that chapter. But it was a book about a kid magician based off of my life and my father's life. We melded together our lives. We both grew up in kind of small town America using magic tricks to get in and out of trouble. So we wrote fictional book that used some of our stories. The first story in the book is a true story of my dad who peed on an electric fence and felt what that was like. That was the first story. And then we combined it with a magic trick, but we teach the magic tricks. And just last week, I got a call from an inner city school that said, hey, we've got a young kid here who is really struggling behind in learning how to read and is using your book to learn how to read because he's motivated by learning these magic tricks, and he's doing magic tricks for all these kids here at the school. That is like the best thing ever to hear that sort of thing. So I sent him my other magic book and I said, keep going. Those are the books. And on the social media side, just watch me on YouTube or on TikTok or Facebook, where it's just my name, Justin Flom, and you can see all the new stuff that's coming. Very soon, we are working on a product to put these layered stencils in your hands so that you can do them. And that'll be a really cool new thing when that happens.
Can't wait for that. I'll put links to all that in the show notes. Everyone listening, you've got to check out. There's a reason there's 30, 100 million, billion views of these things. They're incredible. The magic,
they're really fun.
The spray paint art, all of it.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness, how amazing was Justin Flom? I'm sure you've seen one of the billions and billions of views of his amazing magic or spray paint art. I'll put a few choice selections, links in the show notes. You got to check those out. Such a fun conversation. Can't believe it's over. Another huge thank you. Thank you, Justin Flom, for spending all this time with me. And of course, thanks to all of you for coming back week after week. It means the world to me, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Classic Conversations. If you like what you heard, don't be shy and give us a follow on your favorite podcast app. Also, why not go ahead and tell all your friends about the show? You strike us as the kind of person that people listen to. Thanks in advance for spreading the word, and we'll catch you next time on Classic Conversations.